Conte and Bahara looks at pork barrel spending in states based on terrorism. There are no graphs whatsoever, and most of the paper is spent explaining all the variables. The regressions are all at the end. He controls for variables in states including party affiliation, race, and where the state lies in the U.S. In the end, he finds that, surprisingly, political influence of the state is not as important in pork barrel spending as terrorist threat level. However, his regressions seem a little faulty. First of all, he uses robust R-squares, but doesn't mention too much about heteroscedasticity. Why doesn't he use a weighted regression? He also proceeds to regress all of his variables at the same time, then do the same thing with different dependent variables. This means that we cannot compare the R-squareds. Some of his population numbers don't make sense either. I could have sworn that there were only 50 states. And why are some of his populations different? In summary, this is a strange paper that I would not take very seriously. The paper by Khan and Matsuka is interesting because it looks at the factors that influence people to vote on environmental legislation. In particular, he looks at voters of California. However, even though they use lots of variables in their regressions, it seems as though they were looking for a simple answer. The equation that they use controls for a voter's income, the cost, and preference, but when we look at their calculations for preferences, we see that they use variables like registered Democrats and the percentage of votes received by the Democratic candidate in the presidential election. This means that the authors assume that the people who vote for environmental legislation are Democrats. Are we biased a little bit? Besides, what do votes for Democratic presidential candidates mean when we are looking for votes on the environment? Also, the econometricists, I guess you would call them, are looking at this environmental legislation while controlling for the industries that people work in and their education. However, it seems like numbers of Democrats working in such industries would be an important statistic. These are local issues, so that citizens and industries would be heavily involved. Also, there are no graphs, and the author has a strange regression with no R-squared variable in it. What's up with that?